Hello all, I welcome you all to the 12th lecture in this course EE614. The last time we met, we discussed the very important Shockley equations. We will have a brief recap of that, and then we will continue with non-ideal situations which the Shockley equations did not predict correctly. Okay, the most important part of the ideal diode equation is that if I have a PN junction diode like this, and the depletion width ends somewhere here, right? This being the depletion width. The minor, let us say this is P and this is N, right? The minority carrier concentration at the edge of the depletion width was given by this equation, right? So basically, I'm writing the minority carrier concentration at here. So P at width of the depletion region was given as P in N region, minority carrier, e power qv by kt, right? So this is the starting point of the derivation, and this we came up because of the fact that we thought the Fermi level, quasi Fermi levels to be flat till here, right? And then at this point the current is majorly contributed by the diffusion, right? Diffusion of the minority carriers from this particular point. And we saw that the total current J is summation of two components, the hole component and the electron component, and each of them it is written as J naught e power qv by kt minus 1, and J naught is summation of two terms, right? It is q dp p n naught by tau p, sorry, by lp, right? P n naught is as we saw before, right? And plus it is q dn n p naught by n. And we know this L or P is root d n or p tau n or p, right? This is the characteristic length scales. So now let me plot the ideal results from the ideal diode equation. So I have voltage for easiness. I will have the absolute value of voltage by kt, and I'm going to represent current in logarithmic scale, right? And so in forward bias, log of I, log of j by j naught. Okay. Log of j by j naught is going to be a straight line, right? After a certain small initial threshold. And the reverse bias, let us say at reverse bias, it is going to be almost flat. So this is forward bias, this is reverse bias. At very small voltages, there is a small slope. Okay. Again, I'm plotting the magnitude, right? However, in ideal situations, right, when people measured this IV characteristics of silicon, gallium arsenide and diodes like that, they found that the reverse current is much larger than what ideal diode predicts. Right? So basically it starts at 0, of course, but then the reverse bias currents turned out to be like this. It's flat, but then the magnitude was always much larger than what was predicted. However, after a certain bias, there was a sudden increase in the current, which starts to grow exponentially, right, at some bias voltage. We will see these aspects and why they come about, right? Similarly, on the forward bias characteristics, there was a large deviation from the ideal diode relationship. For instance, the forward bias current at even small biases was very different, in the sense, I'm going to draw this in a different color. So it was again larger than the actual predicted current, for small voltage biases it was it's like this, right? And then it matches it for some reason, and then there is an again deviation from the ideal diode characteristics. This is again forward bias non-ideal. So what we need to say is the actual current values even in the reverse bias as well as in the forward bias in the non-ideal characteristics were higher than what the ideal Schottky diode equation predicts. So we will deal with certain aspects of this as to why they are higher, and we will see other factors such as breakdown, which causes exponential increase in the current after certain potential bias. Okay. So we will go into today's discussion. It is predominantly generation and recombination processes in the PN junction diode. So when we talk about the generation and recombination processes, we should remember our earlier equation, right? The long equation of the net rate U. We derived this. We said that this net rate should the generation and recombination. This is a net generation or recombination, and it is given by this long expression, sigma p being the hole capture rate, sigma n electron capture, Bth the thermal velocity, Pn minus Ni square. So this is the obvious discrepancy from the thermodynamic equilibrium condition. At equilibrium, of course, Pn is equal to Ni square. So therefore, you should not have any net generation or recombination. Nt being the trap assisted case. In semiconductors, mostly this trap assisted recombination is considered because it is one of the most dominant recombination pathways, divided by Zn sigma n plus Ni e power Et minus Ei by Kt. This obviously tells us at which point the energy, what is the energy of the trap which is more effective, and we found this expression telling us that the traps at the middle or the shallow level traps, deep level traps are more efficient than shallow level traps. I minus Et, right? This being the actual generation and recombination rate, right? So the aspect that we are trying to understand is what happens to the ideal or the diode currents at different bias conditions. So let us first look at the most easier condition, that is the reverse bias condition. Under reverse bias, so basically what we have is we have this PN junction diode, and then we have this really huge depletion width, right, which increases upon applied bias. So basically the depletion width W is proportional to root of VBI plus V, right? V being the applied bias. So basically it goes as square root of the applied bias. Right. So now let us take a look at what happens under these conditions. So basically we are talking about generation and recombination at the depletion width, where the number of electrons and holes are much smaller, right? So basically we have P into N being much smaller than Ni square, right? So basically your U is going to be negative, which says that the generation, this U is actually recombination minus generation, right? If you remember our previous derivations. So this value being negative means that generation is more dominant than recombination, right? So basically we will have much higher recombination, much higher generation rates at the depletion width. And again, once again, in these two terms, we can again take N being much smaller than Ni. So this U will be sigma N sigma P Bth minus Ni square Nt divided by this is sigma n into ni, and we can always, okay, so basically I will take ni common outside because it's there on both sides. I have sigma n e power et minus ei by kt plus sigma p e power ei minus et by kt. You can simplify this much further by assuming that sigma n equal to sigma p, and then you will have the maximum recombination as at et is equal to ei, right? Under all these conditions, it becomes much simpler. So you will have something. So basically, you will have sigma n or sigma p. Let's say sigma n vth ni nt, and which can be written as ni by tau g. This is obviously negative, right? Because it's more generation than recombination. Tau g being the effective generation lifetime. Is tau g is 1 by NTVTH sigma n. So the total current J will be an integration over the entire width, because that's where we assume the generation is going to happen, 0 to WD being the width of this, and then the charge and the net rate will give you the total current that is generated from this. If we assume this U to be constant across the entire depletion width, you get a current which is Q Ni WD by tau G. So the actual generation current that we have at the depletion width is proportional to the width of the depletion width, which is proportional to the actual potential, root of the potential that we had applied, right? So the total current that happens under reverse bias is E. I'm going to, let me look at the current again, Q dppn naught by ln, right? Q dppn naught by LP plus Q dn np naught by ln. And remember, we are talking about reverse bias current. So under most applied potentials, the e power thing is much smaller than the other constant one, right? So basically, this will be a current. In addition to this, you have Q Ni WD by tau G, and we know this LP is root dp tau p. So if I replace that, I get Q root dp by tau p, and Pn naught is basically Ni square by Na plus Q root dn by tau n Ni square by Nd, right? These two are obviously the diffusion currents, right? Because these are obtained from the ideal Schottky diode equations, and in ideal Schottky diode we only talk about diffusion currents. So these are the diffusion components, and you have the generation component. Sorry. You can see that in semiconductors where Ni is much large, right? So Ni square will raise much faster than Ni, right? So your diffusion component is more dominant. So this is the diffusion, right? So for semiconductors with large Ni, the diffusion component, diffusion current is more dominant. Example is germanium, right? And for semiconductors with small Ni, the generation is more dominant. generation is, I won't say is more dominant, dominant is significant. You cannot neglect it, right? And it is this uh, reason which makes the silicon, gallium arsenide and other gallium nitride and other materials with significantly larger band gap to have a large deviation from the ideal Schottky diode equations, right? So this is the reason for this larger current in the reverse bias, where you have more generation, and this comes about because the generation current can no longer be neglected when you are calculating the actual current, right? So this is on the reverse bias side. Now let us consider the same thing under forward bias. Under forward bias, obviously the most dominant thing is going to be recombination, right? So we will again consider trap assisted recombination and the net rate. Again, our previous equation, right? It is sigma p sigma n VTH nt. I'm going to take ni square out now. So let me go one by one. Np minus ni square by sigma 1 n plus ni e power et minus ei by kt plus sigma et by kt. Now, under forward bias, what is Np minus Ni square? So let us do this product again. I think we had done this before, but let me do this again. N is always Ni e power Ef n minus Ei by kt, right? And P is Ni e power Ei minus Efp. Actually, instead of this, the better term would be Nc e power Efn minus Ec by kt into Nv e power Efp Ev minus Efp by kt. This will give you Nc Nv e power minus of Ec minus Ev by kt into e power Efn minus Efp by kt. And you know this initial term is Ni square. E power Efn minus Efp is the difference in the quasi-Fermi levels, and which we know to be equal to the applied potential, right, from our previous terms. So basically your N into P is Ni square into Qv by kBt. I'm going to put this back into our expression. We can take Ni square out of this product, and it will give us, the numerator will give us sigma n sigma p, just the numerator, right? I'm a little bit lazy to write both the terms. VTH nt Ni square e power Qv by kt minus 1. Now let us consider the denominator. So here we have to write n as the how we wrote before, right? N is Ni e power Ef minus Ec, Ef minus Ei minus kBt, right? However, we have okay, so let me write this. The denominator, so let's do this. So the most dominant recombination happens when ET is close to EI, right? So we will consider this this recombination at the at let's consider the recombination rate. Let's consider the maximum recombination rate, which happens when the trap energy is close to the intrinsic level, right? So we are going to assume ET is equal to EI, like we did last time, right? So the denominator will turn out to be sigma n plus ni plus sigma p plus ni. So and if we assume sigma n is equal to sigma p as we did the last time, we will have sigma n is n plus p plus 2 ni, right? So now let's calculate the u, which is just one, the numerator versus denominator, right? So we will give you sigma nrp vth nt ni square e power qv by kt minus 1 divided by sigma nrp, right? And n is basically ni e power efn minus ei by kt plus p is ni e power ei minus efn by kt plus 2 ni, right? And the maximum rate once again happens if EFN. So basically in most of the situation, EFN is equally separated. So basically we have seen this, right? So under applied bias, EFN is as higher from the EI as EFP is as low from the EI, right? So basically if this is the original Fermi level, this is where EI was, right? If the applied bias falls like this, this total thing is going to be, this thing will be the EV, potential applied, right? This is EFN, this is EFP, and this will be EV by 2, and this will be EV by 2, right? So EFN minus EI is basically EV by 2, right? So the denominator, so let me write like this. We will have sigma sigma is gone, right? So basically I should not have this sigma vth nt ni square e power qv by kt. I'm going to neglect the minus 1, thinking in situations where I have bias higher such that e power qv by kt is larger than 1, right? By I'm going to take ni common out, and EFN minus EI is basically e power qvb by 2, e power qv by 2 kt, right? Plus EI minus, so this is once again e power qb by kt 2 kt plus 2. So in total we will have sigma, so I can take once again qv, this is much larger than the one here, so sigma vth nt into e power qv by 2 kt, right? And ni cancels ni, and I have just one ni. So this is the actual recombination rate. You can see that the recombination rate again is proportional to ni and proportional to the applied bias. Now this is a very crude way of calculating the recombination rate. The actual current, because of this recombination, as we have done previously, this will be an integration over the entire width, Q times the recombination rate dx will give us Q WD by 2, because I have left out a 2 here, which comes from 2 being taken common outside, into sigma VTH NT Ni e power QV by 2 kT. Okay. However, you see that there are a lot of gross assumptions here, in the sense that I have made this recombination rate constant across the entire depletion width. I have assumed larger voltage biases and all these things. If all these things are properly estimated, the actual recombination rate was estimated to be KT Ni by epsilon. So basically, by E. E is the applied potential, because this determines the actual width of the depletion region, right? You know that as E increases, the depletion width reduces, right? E power QV by 2 kT. So basically, we still have, even under correct calculations, we still have the e power QV by 2 kT. We have additional terms from the recombination and the applied electric field, right? So with this additional current due to recombination, the total forward bias current is given by, again, Q root dP by tau p Ni square by Nd plus Q root dN by tau n Ni square by Na. This is the I naught e power QV by KT. I am again neglecting 1, because under higher bias, anyway, this term is larger than the other constant term, plus root pi by 2 KT Ni by sigma E naught e power QV by 2 kT. And the entire term can be approximated as a very simple e power QV by eta KT. You can see that under the situation where the diffusion current dominates, eta is almost 1 if diffusion current dominates, and if it's the recombination current that dominates, then eta is 2. If recombination once again, you can see that materials with high intrinsic carrier concentration will have much closer much closer relationship with the ideal diode characteristics, and material with lower intrinsic carrier density will have higher recombination rates. Right. So with this treatment, we will stop this discussion on generation and recombination for now, and the next time we meet, let us talk about other non-ideality, which includes high injection condition. Thank you.